All right, I'm told I'm not meant to have started. I don't know if any of you heard any of that, but
we did.
Right, well, I'm on now. Right, well, I'm still here. I'm still Baroness Simons, and I chair the Arab-British Chamber of Commerce, which is a great honour. And we have a great panel today assembled. My colleague, the CEO and Secretary General of the Arab-British Chamber, Mr. Van der Rede, is with us. We are delighted that His Excellency, Mr. Abdulrahman Bengura, who came to us in London as ambassador in 2019, is also able to join us. I am personally very pleased to see the Right Honourable Lord Risby of Haverhill, who is the Prime Minister's trade envoy to Algeria, and I know was in Algeria earlier this year before the first of the lockdowns. Great pleasure to see you, Richard. I should also, for the sake of the rest of the company, we can remind ourselves that Richard and I were at the same great university together more years ago than I can remember. We were both at Cambridge at the same time. I'm delighted to see Lady Olga Maitland, who is chairman of the Algerian British Business Council since it was launched in 2005, and who I think has an absolutely unparalleled record in the amount of business that she has facilitated between this country and Algeria. My congratulations to her for everything she has done. She has been a really tremendous ambassador for this country in trade terms. We also have Mr. James Fielder, who's the CEO of HSBC Algeria. He's had extensive experience around the world, having worked in Asia, Europe, and the USA. And we have Mr. Yassine Bahoura, who's Vice President of the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in France, Vice President of the Algerian Business Council at the Dubai Chamber, and on the Advisory Board of the Algerian British Business Council. So he too has a fantastic record of facilitating trade around the world. Colleagues, I'm very sorry to have to tell you that Mrs. Sophia Kouere, who was meant to be with us today and who, as you will all know, is the director of the National Agency of Investment and Development, cannot be with us. She has suffered a bereavement. She sends her apologies, and I'm sure we would all wish to send her our deepest sympathy in her loss and our condolences to her. Thank you. Well, on that opening note, here we are in very odd times. We were mentioning before we had the 2-minute silence that maybe our fortunes are going to change over this ghastly pandemic that we've all been living through, and that just possibly we have now a real glimmer of hope in the development of a vaccine, and let us all hope that that will be something that can be distributed worldwide when it is further developed, and that we will be able to meet each other in person and talk in the usual way. But in the meantime, we're very lucky to have the sort of technology that does allow us to keep in touch. We too, of course, in the United Kingdom have the interesting other aspect to our trading uncertainties at the moment, quite apart from the pandemic, which is our impending leaving of the European Union. We still have not finalised the terms on which we shall be leaving the European Union, but we are very hopeful of doing so. There's a great deal of work going on over that. The government is obviously very heavily engaged in those discussions, and we would very much like to see a positive outcome. We have as well, of course, a new president in the United States who no doubt will have his own views about trade around the world. And so this is a time of some uncertainty for all of us, but I think nonetheless a time of some changing hope. At least I hope and believe that's the case. And what we do know is that we need to trade with each other, and we need to trade with each other as openly and as liberally as possible in order for all our economies to work and our people to prosper. So on that opening note, if I can, I'm going to turn to my Secretary General, Mr. Banda Reda, to make a few opening remarks, and then I shall be calling upon His Excellency the Ambassador after Banda has said a few words of welcome to us as well. Banda, over to you.
Baroness, thank you very much. Baroness, Lord Rusby, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Arab British Chamber of Commerce, it is a true pleasure to welcome everyone to this Algerian Ambassadorial Roundtable. We are honored by the presence of His Excellency Mr. Abdurrahman bin Gurra, the Ambassador of Algeria to the United Kingdom. We thank also the Right Honourable Lord Rusby, the British Prime Minister Trade Envoy to Algeria, for being able to participate in our discussion today. I would like also to extend my thanks to Lady Olga and each of our distinguished speakers who have kindly agreed to share their insight into the business and investment opportunity in Algeria and the prospect for closer collaboration. This is a very high-powered panel, and I'm into no doubt that everyone is keen, as I am, to listen to your contribution and to learn from the considerable experience and expertise gathered here today. Ladies and gentlemen, at the largest country in Africa and one of the largest in the area, Algeria has enormous potential and is an extremely attractive destination for investors and exporters. The country boasts huge mineral resources alongside oil, gas, extensive modern infrastructure, and highly educated population. There is a tremendous opportunity for expanding the exchange of goods, services, investment between the UK and Algeria, both sides eager to deepen their relationship, which has been no mean reach its full potential. We can look forward in optimizing a significant strength of relation between the two people of our nations. The Chamber is dedicated to play its part in building a strong UK-Algerian cooperation, laying particular emphasis on supporting our private sectors and entrepreneurs and enterprises. We are continuing to develop our services to help businesses community throughout these difficult times, and we want to ensure companies met their objective in post-Brexit, post-COVID environment. Finally, I invite everyone to visit our website for updates on all our services, including details further webinars. Thank you very much, and back to you, Baroness.
Thank you very much, Banda. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mr. Abdurrahman bin Gurra. He came to us as ambassador in 2019, having been a deputy ambassador in Washington. We very much look forward to what he has to say about the view he has on the prospects of our furthering and deepening our trade relationship. Your Excellency, if you would be kind enough to address us.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and assalamu alaikum. Let me thank you, Baroness Simons and Mr. Banda Reda, for your presentation and kind words, and for taking the time and the initiative to organize this conference about business and trade opportunities in Algeria, and also about economic relations between Algeria and the United Kingdom. As you can expect, a British businessman in search of investment opportunities inside or outside Europe will undoubtedly ask some questions about the business climate, the quality of manpower, natural resources, and the rate of returns on capitals in a given country. And I believe that with respect to these parameters, Algeria, which is so close to Europe geographically, half an hour flight from Algiers to the shores of Southern Europe, and historically also so close to Europe, and being part of the Arab, African, and the Mediterranean worlds, is an excellent country to explore and consider, as it has huge economic potential and also as it is embarked on ambitious and large-scale reforms seldom experienced since its independence. As you know, less than a year ago, the Algerian people elected a new president, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, with a program and a promise to undertake deep and structural political and economic changes. Under his leadership, important amendments has been brought to the constitution, a constitution that has been adopted by the parliament and also by the Algerian people in a popular referendum which was held on the 1st of November 2020. That's almost 10 days ago. These amendments lay the foundation for a democratic, strong, socially just, and economically prosperous state. They reinforce the rule of law and preserve the rights and freedoms of individuals and groups. They limit presidential terms to 2. That is, a president can no longer aspire to retire or die in office. The new constitution consolidates the neutrality of the administration, prohibits abuse, fights bureaucracy, separates money from politics, fights corruption, and prohibits conflicts of interest and abuse of power. This constitution has also the potential to free the economy, promotes good governance, and encourages innovation, entrepreneurship, and investment, and thus economic growth and sustainable development. Along these amendments that are in the Constitution, and to further improve the business climate and diversify further the economy, the Algerian government introduced a new investment law to further simplify and clarify the investment procedures, reduce the bureaucracy, and provide more guarantees and protection to investors, be foreign investor or local investors. This new law makes no distinction or difference between foreign and local investors. It also includes further tax incentives, which will depend, of course, on the added value of the project and its capacity to create jobs. One of the reforms that attracted much attention is the abrogation of the so-called Rule 5149, which will be only limited to a very few sectors of the economy considered as strategic and identified as those of hydrocarbon, mining, defense, railway, ports, airports, and pharmaceuticals manufacturing. This rule requires a cap of 49% of the participation of foreign investors in the capital of an Algerian company. The reform also authorizes foreign companies to resort to external financing and which are no longer limited to local financing. I would also like to mention the planned reform of the law on money and credit. This law will be amended with a view to guaranteeing the independence and the autonomy of the central bank in line with an open economy. Another law much talked about is the law concerning the sector of the hydrocarbons, which aims to encourage investment in this sector. It introduces in particular a set of new tax measures to stimulate the oil and gas sector and also to reduce the tax burden borne by companies, international companies operating in Algeria. While maintaining the rule of 5149 in this sector, this law redefines the roles of the various national actors of the hydrocarbon sector. Hence, the Ministry of Energy will only intervene in strategic decisions relating to energy policy, while the national company called Sonatrach is simply an economic operator and not a regulator. This law also brings new things to the sector. It establishes 3 contractual forms for the exploration and exploitation activities with the objective of allowing a more equitable and attractive distribution of profits to foreign partners and to give them the latitude to choose the contractual form most appropriate to the type of activity they wish to conduct. I also want to mention that a new mining law is being drafted that will open the sector to international investors. Huge projects of phosphates are expected to be launched in the future. The output of these projects will be used in the production of fertilizers, and a portion of it will be exported. Finally, I would like to mention the creation of Ministry of Startups, and also the creation of fund dedicated to the financing of startups, created largely by young entrepreneurs. This fund, based mainly on venture capital, that is financing without guarantees, permits project leaders to avoid difficulties of obtaining loans from commercial banks. These are the reforms that have been introduced by the government, but the question sometimes you might ask, but for what country and for what economy? Let me just mention a few important data about Algeria. Algeria, as we mentioned, is the largest country in Africa, in the Mediterranean, and in the Arab world. It has an immense potential in terms of natural and human resources. It's one of the largest economies in Africa with an important industrial base. It has more than 1 million of small and medium enterprises and many firms of international stature. It has a modern public infrastructures of international standards. In fact, this infrastructure is the largest in Africa. 99.8% of Algerians have electricity. It's among the highest in the world. And 70% of Algerians have natural gas in their home, cooking gas. With a population of 42 million people, of which 10 million, that is 1 Algerian out of 4, goes to school. And in those 10 million students, you have 1.7 million that are in higher education. Algeria has well-trained labor. The minimum wage in Algeria is about 180 euros a month, keeping in mind that a euro in Algeria is worth more than 5 times its value in Europe in terms of purchasing power. This put Algeria gross domestic product per capita at $11,350 in 2019. Algeria has the highest index of human development in Africa, as calculated by the United Nations. It's also considered one of the countries with the least social inequalities. In fact, the government spent in 2019 $14 billion in social programs. Health services and education are free in Algeria. The 1.7 million university students mentioned above not only do not pay for their studies, but have free housing, free meals, free transport, and a small revenue paid by the state. Even though Algeria has been experiencing for the past years a fall of its oil revenues, which constitute a large part of its economy, of its income, and is facing the huge challenges posed by COVID-19, its macroeconomic parameters remain relatively positive and stable, with 2.6% GDP growth in 2019, a rate of inflation of 2%, an unemployment of 12%, foreign exchanges reserve at $57 billion, and an insignificant foreign debt. Now, as far as the bilateral relations between Algeria and the United Kingdom, as far as economic relations are concerned between the two countries, Algeria considers the UK as an important partner with whom it wants to build strong and strategic partnership in all sectors of the economy of common interest. In 2019, the bilateral trade was approximately $2.9 billion. Algeria exporting about 2.4 billion in oil and gas and importing 500 million or around $500 million of British goods and services. I believe that the two countries, already linked by a non-double taxation agreement, can do much more in terms of trade investment. We strongly believe that British firms with their expertise, know-how, experience, and huge capacities will know how to seize the numerous investment opportunities in Algeria, as have succeeded in doing so the 130 British companies that are operating in Algeria, and some of them for since a long time. and they are operating in such sectors as oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, banking, and engineering. We hope that the British firms will also see Algeria, which has seven neighboring countries, as a unique gateway to do business in Africa, as the Trans-Saharan Highway project is in its final phase. This major highway will connect Algiers to Abuja in Nigeria and passes through Chad, Mali, Niger, and Tunisia. This motorway, symbol of African solidarity, will be an important contributor to the development of commercial exchanges and the promotion of regional integration. This major infrastructure will be achieved at a time when Africa is about to launch a free trade zone, which will encompass all its member states. I would like to thank you for your listening, and I'm ready for any question or clarification that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. That was a terrific overview of what is happening in Algeria, and a very comprehensive view of the sorts of ways that you're hoping, planning to develop the economy. And of course, your point about the strategic positioning of Algeria is enormously important. If I may now, I'm going to turn to Lord Risby, who, as I'm sure you all know, is the Prime Minister's trade envoy to Algeria. And as I said, a co-inmate with me in the House of Lords. Richard.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you so much for your speech. And indeed, I thank Baroness Simons, who is a long-standing and much admired friend, for the invitation as well, and the opening remarks of the Secretary General Rader. I, of course, am just delighted to be able to participate today. And we're on Armistice Day, and of course, as we did, we commemorate those who lost their lives in conflict. And I would just like to mention something that happened to me in Algeria 3 years ago, when it was a very moving and emotional moment. I participated in the celebrations of Operation Torch, which took place in Algiers. And Operation Torch led to the liberation of Algeria during the Second World War, was a major turning point in the war. And I just wanted to say how many Algerians lost their lives in that conflict. And I would like to take this opportunity of paying tribute to them and their contribution to what happened in the Second World War, happily in the end. Now, we have a long history. It goes back 4 centuries, and we have great pride in that long-standing relationship. But I believe that Algeria is today at a turning point. Hydrocarbons have been the bedrock of the economy, and indeed, Algeria has been an excellent supplier of LNG to us for more than 50 years. They're now fully committed to renewables. But I would just like to say that in this sector, British companies continue to invest heavily. And last year was a banner year for us. My good friends at Petrofac won a $1 billion contract for procurement and construction in the enormous Antilles gas field coming on stream in 2022. And for years, our ambassador in Algiers, Barry Lowen, and I encouraged and nurtured Sunny Hill Energy, who have committed $600 million for drilling and testing there, creating 3,000 jobs. But in my recent visits to Algeria, the government and business leaders have made it clear of their commitment to a new economic approach with economic and business diversification. And they are looking to harness the impressive energy and ambition and technological capabilities of the young population, and they're right to do so. I've had the opportunity of meeting young Algerian entrepreneurs who have started remarkably successful state-of-the-art businesses. And developing human capital is part of our bilateral relationship. We share expertise on effective education, which promotes employability in the 21st century, and offering English language training now so widespread. So I'm delighted that the British Council, the British Institute, the British Study Centres and universities like Robert Gordon University, the Northern Consortium of Universities, the Imperial College London are active across Algeria with Algerian partners. And today is also a very important day because formally an all-party group is being established in our parliament specifically for Algeria to link up with the friendship group in their parliament and indeed linking up also with the activities undertaken in the Algerian parliament by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. So our vision is to extend the opportunities for spreading our education and English language and to share it with our Algerian friends. And I'm particularly proud that after many years of planning, we have just celebrated the opening of the first British school in the country. And our vision is very clear, to have more British schools to open in other cities, and I stand ready to support UK companies in this endeavour. Now, building on the talents of their people, the Algerian government is starting to diversify its economy by developing new industries, supporting startups, and promoting a knowledge economy. And priority sectors in this diversification strategy include agriculture, renewable energy, pharmaceuticals, digital, mining, financial and professional services. Now, we are one of the world's most successful trading nations with global networks which complement Algeria's own, and that's particularly true across Africa. So as Algeria's entrepreneurs explore new markets in Africa, which is their stated ambition, and beyond, UK companies offer complementary technology, investment, experience and expertise, which can deliver mutual gain. I was pleased to see that at the early part of this year, we had Algeria attending the Africa Investment Summit hosted by our Prime Minister, and the Minister of Industry from Algeria led an impressive delegation, and I believe that also added to the foundations of our bilateral relationship. And I was delighted to hear yesterday that there will be a repeat of this next year. Another part of the UK offer is that we are indeed a world-class finance hub. Many regard London as the top global financial center. In Algeria, with its outward-looking development agency, it is now possible to borrow freely abroad and to export profits and dividends. We embrace the possibilities of the digital economy, a world leader in every type, and we are home to some of the world's great universities and, of course, the tech hubs which exist in London and Cambridge. So this builds on our place as one of the most digitally developed countries in the world. And we want to share our expertise and our experience with our friends in Algeria in promoting startups and encouraging the right fiscal and employment structures that will bring that success about. As a government, we support UK-based companies to invest and operate overseas, opening an overseas office, setting up a factory, or expanding existing overseas operations. UK Export Finance now has the capacity to offer £4 billion to support UK businesses with overseas partners in any sector in Algeria. So as Algeria looks to develop its economic future and to harness the technological competence of its young people, the time is absolutely right for more UK companies to be part of this vision together, building stronger, greener partnerships for the future. Now, of course, let me be frank. We know that companies invest where they believe the right incentives exist. Business needs fiscal encouragement and predictability, tied, of course, to a transparent business environment, which allows companies to commit to long-term investments. In this globally competitive environment, countries need to offer a competitive investment climate. And Algeria knows this. British and Algerian companies have told me that doing business in Algeria can be difficult. Of course, that is true for many countries. But they also tell me that the rewards that Algeria can offer can outweigh the challenges. And they also see a country that is changing, and as it does, is opening new business opportunities for UK companies with specific and new incentives. Therefore, I was greatly encouraged by the recent announcement by the Algerian government of a range of new incentives and a review of the current legal framework in their economic and social recovery plan to encourage foreign investment. At the same time, let us never forget the challenge of climate change. And that as well, the UK is leading international efforts. And of course, we will be hosting the COP26 conference in Glasgow in a year's time. We are a world leader in green finance and a global center of carbon trading. So we have the capabilities in green tech and other services, for example, the integration of renewable technologies into existing grid infrastructure. And as Algeria pursues its energy transformation, much focused on renewables, the British government and British businesses are ready to accompany it, sharing our technology, expertise and experience. There is a huge opportunity for furthering commercial relationships. So all of those who are business leaders listening to this discussion will know that it is the potential which counts, and I believe that that is materially happening in Algeria today. So let me assure you that I and colleagues in the British Embassy and in the Department of International Trade offer practical help. The DIT team is ready to assist British companies with information, introductions, and other support. We are working with Algerian partners to identify specific opportunities and to alert UK companies to them. They are finding new ways to use their presence in Algeria to help companies to follow up specific leads and develop partnerships. So if I would just say in conclusion, I believe we are at a turning point. I am filled with optimism. I'm looking forward to my 20th visit to Algeria as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I profoundly thank ABCC for today's event.
Ernest, we cannot hear you. It's muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay. I don't. Can somebody unmute me, please?
You're back. You're back.
I am back. Okay, thank you very much. No thanks to me, this happened magically. But what I was saying, thank you very much, Richard, for reminding us about the access to UK export finance, and also, of course, to COP26 next year in Glasgow. Really important staging points for us, I think, that are on our horizon. May I turn now to Lady Olga Maitland, who is, of course, the chairman of the Algeria British Business Council, and I think has been second to none in the amount of work and effort that she has put in over the very many years that we have known each other, Olga, in ensuring that the trading relationship with Algeria stays as lively and as exciting as it can be. You've done terrific work, and I'm sure everybody who's participating today is very aware of that. So if you would be kind enough now to talk to us a little further, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, what a real pleasure to take part in the webinar today, but really a huge thanks to His Excellency for setting the picture really into the correct context. I've had great pleasure in working with the Ambassador. I enjoy his optimism, and I share the optimism. And I share the optimism across the board. Now, I've been involved with Algeria for 17 years. I have seen a lot of change, and I have seen the private sector grow. Now, it could be said that the private sector has grown almost despite itself, but it has. And what I view with great enthusiasm are the commitments by the government to reform its economic sector, its financial services sector, the hydrocarbon sector, and to move on. I think next year, 2021, will be an incredible post-COVID positive year. And I'm certainly looking forward to racing back to Algeria, because I have had any number of companies being in touch with me saying, my frustration is I can't get to Algeria. I can't reach the people I need to meet. But what is interesting is that Algeria is a country with incredible opportunity for companies. There's no competition. The British are definitely there. We're respected and we're trusted. And I think this is very important. We don't have an unfortunate history. And indeed, we have a very good relationship with both with this is for the Business Council, both with the embassy and indeed with government as a general. And these things are really important. The fact that we have an operating office in Algiers means that we can give practical support to companies. But I would say to companies, be brave, be bold, look at this incredible market, 43 million people, educated, young, hungry to get on, now getting a new infrastructure to make their dreams become a reality. So my feeling is that I really look forward to the kind of confirming and application of all the ideas and dreams the government put forward, because what a difference it will make. But there's no doubt about it, we, the Business Council, are here to help a company enter a market which is unique. We urge you, please take careful advice, listen to the advice, and listen to the people who we will introduce you to, who are trusted and superb. I must say I'm very proud of my friends in Algeria. They're very dear to me, the country's very dear to me, and I want it to prosper, as I know it will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olga, and thank you for everything that you've been doing for the last 17 years. May I turn now to Mr. James Fielder, who has, I think, been now in Algeria for a couple of years, for 2 years. Mr. Fielder, of course, has a very long and distinguished history with HSBC, which means that he is now the CEO of HSBC in Algeria, having worked in Europe, in the United States and Asia. So huge experience globally, but now concentrating on Algeria. Mr. Fielder, would you be kind enough to address some remarks to us? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Baroness. And thank you to the Arab-British Chamber of Commerce for including me with these such a distinguished panel. I think His Excellency summed up Algeria better than anyone could have with the range of topics. I think on a personal note, one thing that wasn't mentioned was tourism. And I think that the country is ripe for progress there. I've just, given the country is in lockdown, I've had a week traveling around part of the eastern side, and some absolutely fantastic scenery and sites and history that is available to be explored. On the business side, HSBC has been here 12 years, and we have a relatively small office, about 120 people in total, spread across Algiers and Oran, and we're here to service our international client base and a select number of local corporates that are operating in country. And as I think it's been mentioned already, for those that are already here, they are reaping the benefits of such a large market. It isn't the easiest place to do business, as has been alluded to as well. But I think we've said many times before that as long as you go through and follow the processes and the steps that are required, things do get done, and the outcomes are as requested. And I think that the changes that are being introduced by President Tebboune, we are seeing change here, and so I think my time on the ground has been about 2.5 years, but I've been involved for quite in depth for 3 years now, and certainly feel the positive change of us moving in the right direction. So again, for investors looking at where to invest, they may have some connection to Algeria for some business reason, in which case obviously Algeria is open and welcome to you to come. For those that are considering more general expansion, then obviously Algeria has to compete with or the other opportunities that you as a business owner can choose. And I think there are some natural advantages here in Algeria, and there are also some challenges. But as many of the companies that are here, and I think it was Lord Risby who said, tell us time and time again, when we meet with the sort of British business group or with Lady Olga's ABCC, we are, they feel that the benefits do outweigh some of these challenges. But I feel that these challenges should be reducing. It won't happen overnight. But we HSBC are here. We've increased our capital last year, and we'll be increasing our capital again at the end of this year, which is a requirement from the central bank. But again, that shows our commitment here. And we look forward to supporting our customers both on the inbound leg, and why not over time as companies develop and not only serve the local market, but the idea from the government is that they grow to potentially then be exporting out, not just in the hydrocarbon sectors, but in other sectors as well. And we would look to help clients doing that through our network of 61 countries. So I think the future is bright, but do come with open eyes. That there are challenges as well, but as I said, we can overcome those together. That's my comments from my side. Thank you.
And very helpful too. Thank you very much indeed. May I turn now to our final speaker, Mr. Yassine Bouhara, who is the Vice President of the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in France, and Vice President of the Algerian Business Council at the Dubai Chamber, and of course on the advisory board of the Algerian British Business Council. Mr. Bouhara, would you be kind enough to address some remarks to us, please?
Thank you, Baroness. I'm very delighted and happy and honored to have been invited to this panel. I'd like to have a special salute to His Excellency and obviously to Lord Risby, and a very, very special thought to Lady Olga. And I think you were undermining her role between the UK and Algeria when you talked about the fact of everything she has accomplished. I think from all the countries that we operate with, the most dynamic person between two countries and a foreign country in Algeria is Lady Olga. And I think, the ambassador is giving her honorary citizenship soon.
I'd accept it.
I have to say that the introduction by His Excellency, the Ambassador of Algeria, was the best introduction I've heard since I've started to operate in Algeria by an Algerian diplomat. So I think you should reconvert into commercial activities, Mr. Ambassador, going forward. Nevertheless, I think a lot of things were said. I think Algeria is a country of opportunities. As Mrs. Courier is not part of this seminar, unfortunately, I'm going to touch a little bit on the incentives that exist in Algeria. So Algeria has a national agency for investment development. Yes. And I'm just going to say it in a straight fashion. The advantages that Algeria provides to investors are, without any questions, the best on earth. If I was an advisor to the Algerian government, I would say you're doing too much. Yes, you're giving too much. Yes, let's call it what it is. Everything is always segregated in two aspects. There is advantages at the implementation phase and advantages in exploitation. I mean, you'll be exempted from custom duty on every imported good directly involving the investment. You will have VAT exemptions, exemption on transfer duty. You will have no registration fees. You will get a land concession by the government for free, where you will have a rent that will be deducted by 90% during the implementation phase. And then you will have a ridiculously low rental cost. Yes, that will be reduced to up to 50% for 10 years. You'll be exempted from income tax. You will have no other registration costs and so on. And if, luckily, you choose to invest in the beautiful southern part of Algeria, I mean, these advantages move from exceptional to ridiculous. yes, you'll end up having, and it's like, it would be crazy not to invest. So that's basically what I want to phrase. So there is a website where you can see all the advantages and the processes. It's called andi.dz, so andi.dz. You go to this website, it's in English. You're going to see all the advantages associated with investments in Algeria. And then, I'll defy anyone who participates to the seminar to send me advantages in other countries that will beat Algeria. Yes. So to close on that specific subject, you have these advantages. Yes, Algeria needs to diversify its economy. Yes, but let me give you a little bit of figures, because often the country is misunderstood. Agriculture, for example. I mean, there is opportunity in the transformation. Let's call it what it is. The agriculture of Algeria is badly advertised, yes, and the industry of transformation is poor to non-existent. Let's call it what it is. I mean, we've been a little bit lazy. We're importing a lot of things, but nevertheless, Algeria produces a lot of agricultural product. Let me give you an example. We top 20 in the world in the production of potatoes. 2018, we produced 4.6 million tons of potatoes. We are the 6th largest producer of watermelon on earth. Yes, 2 million tons in 2018. We produce barley, we're in the top 20. We produce onions, we're in the top 15. We produce 1.3 million of tomatoes tons a year, we're in the top 20. We produce dates. I mean, obviously we have a large desert, fantastic dates as well, but we're in the top 3 of date production on earth, and we're exporting. We are the 4th largest producer of apricot in the world. Yes, in 2018, we produced 250,000 tons of apricots. Yes, the same for artichokes. Yes, we produce 125,000 tons of artichokes, as well plums and figs and many other products. So when you think of diversification of the economy of Algeria, do not assume that there is nothing. Yes, that we are some sort of a dry land, we're exporting oil and gas, and we're buying some products. There is domestic production. And yes, there is not enough transformation of these products on the ground. So to create further added value than what is produced already by our local agriculture. So obviously we could do transformation of fruits, transformations of vegetables, all kind of processing, and you will do that with substantial advantages as the one that I've provided, and an energy at a cost that will defy gravity. And as His Excellency has said, you do have engineers, technicians, people of capabilities in the countries. It's very large and diversified, and you will benefit as well from a domestic market. So to all the people that are exporting in Algeria right now, because Algeria is a fantastic market to export. I mean, each time I'm in Dubai or in the UK or anywhere else in Europe, I meet people who export in the Arab world, and often Algeria is, if not their largest market. Yes, because Algeria buys a lot of things. Hopefully this is going to change. So I urge all the people who are making a lot of money exporting to Algeria to change the process and start to produce in Algeria and use it as a base of exports as well. Yes, and I believe that there is all these opportunities. Besides agriculture, we always talk about hydrocarbons products, but Algeria has substantial mining capacity. His Excellency mentioned phosphates. Algeria has the 2nd largest reserve of phosphate on earth, around 2 billion tons of phosphates to be exploited and transformed, as we have water and gas, so we can create the entire fertilizer chains associated with it, which will catalyze, by the way, further the agriculture. There is substantial minerals such as zinc, such as iron, and there is many products that we don't even know. Exploration is an opportunity, and my understanding is around 90% of the Sahara, which is around 2 million kilometers square, hasn't been yet explored for minerals. Yes, so you have most probably the most untapped capabilities connected with infrastructure, connected with energy, where you have most probably an opportunity in exploration. We mentioned as well startup for the young people. Algeria has a burgeoning startup capability. Yes, and there is a lot of new initiative taken by the youth. The government has responded to some of the demand by setting up startup funds that you invest into the capital of companies. So we have some excitement around it. There is plenty of creativity that is emerging, and I think there is opportunities that are substantial. Yes, it is a country that is perceived being difficult. I apologize, Your Excellency, I'm going to phrase it this way. This is an Arab country with a French bureaucracy. Yes, I mean, you cannot do a worse combination. so it's kind of tough to operate with a lot of red tapes. But you know, Algerians have become experts to navigate that space. So you will get a lot of support from specialized administrative units and consultants who know how to navigate the space of the red tape. Luckily, the government is fighting against the unnecessary red tape that is taking place in the country, and we can see a lot of progress. For example, you have now electronic registry of commerce structure. Just to give you an idea, in France, it takes 10 days to be registered at the Registry of Commerce. In Algeria, it's 24 hours. So it's actually, in a lot of areas, poorly advertised again. There is things where substantial progress have been made. So my specific view, and I will more than agree with what Lord Risby has expressed, and as well Lady Olga, the timing is now. Yes, I believe that there is a transformation that is taking place. Algeria is key in the energy sector. We have some sort of a green energy sector because our energy, even though being hydrocarbon, is gas. And you know, in the chain of polluting and CO2 emission, gas is quasi-green. And just like to remember our British friends that the first LNG shipment commercial ever in history occurred between Algeria and the UK in 1964. Yes, 2 years after Algeria's independence, the first shipment of liquid natural gas took place between Arzew and the UK. Yes, so there is a history there. There is fundamental opportunities in what we call the energy transition to take place. Algeria has huge potential in solar energy, aeolian, and biomass, and many other aspects. We have a large Mediterranean front, which offers opportunities in fishing, transformation in the fishing industry, and so on. And as James Fielder from HSBC mentioned as well, as you know, until you visit Algeria, you cannot realize what it looks like. Yes, I mean, there is a fantastic landscape. I like to say normally that Algeria is not a country, it's a continent. I'm going to stop there, otherwise I can talk for 2 hours about the country. But what I would say is, yes, there is perception that is difficult. And for some categories of commerce, Algeria is going to become more difficult. And so I'm warning some group of people because they're going to have a tough time. Anyone who think that they can continue to export into Algeria without having a local presence are going to have a tougher and tougher time. Yes, so it's not a threat, but at the same time, I believe that there is such an opportunity to be on the ground, such an opportunity to transfer capacity of production, that it will be more specifically for people who have good intelligence of this market because they sell a lot of product to Algeria. It is time to invest into the country. And I believe that, you know, the message today is invest in Algeria. The timing is now. And among all the countries that I look at, Algeria will do great post-COVID. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much for such a comprehensive overview and a lot of thought and ideas there. I've got some questions that have been coming in whilst people have been watching this webinar, and I would like to put just one or two of them. There won't be time for many, but I would like to put one or two of them. If I may, Ambassador, one of the questions is, Algeria possesses significant mineral resources. In this sector, what are the significant opportunities for British involvement as suppliers, industrial expertise, and investors? So it is very specifically aimed at your wealth in mineral resources, Ambassador, and I wonder if you can say a couple of words of encouragement for British investments on that.
Yes, you know, as just been mentioned, you know, Algeria is a continent by itself, and we have a huge territory, and we believe that is underexplored. And for the past 3 decades, we didn't really spend too much on the mining sector. because it's a sector that is very capital intensive. But now the government, as you know, is embarked on a policy of diversification. And one of the sectors that has received much attention is the sector of mining. It's for this reason that we are reviewing all the texts concerning this sector. And we believe that the investment is needed in the sector that I just mentioned, which is the phosphates, because it's not only for industry, but also for agriculture. We already have 2 units of production of fertilizers with phosphates, but now we are, I think there is big projects in the eastern side of Algeria worth billions of dollars, which will be launched, I believe, with the maybe next year. And of course, this is very expensive one, and it comes at a time when Algeria is experiencing, as all countries in the world, some difficulties in terms of finance because of the not only the the fall of price of oil and gas, but also of the coronavirus. But what can be said is that there is real determination of Algeria to go ahead with the development of this sector. And one of the projects that is in the short and mid-term that will be launched is the one that is on the east part of Algeria next to the Tunisian border. And it will be, I think, one of the evaluation is about $5–6 billion.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Lord Risby, can I turn to you? The question that's been put is that given that much of Algeria's press and media is not available in the English language, where can UK executives go to find reliable, up-to-date information about the Algerian market? And can you outline any leading Algerian business websites or useful media? I imagine that's a question you're often faced with, is the language issue.
Well, the language has been an issue in the past. It's no longer an issue at all in the same way, because I've talked to universities, for example, and I do speak a bit of French, but it's interesting that it was all understood. The desire to learn the English language amongst younger people is absolutely astonishing. And there are private schools teaching the English language with a huge demand. So there is a generational step change taking place in that regard. It's perfectly easy. The Department of International Trade has a website, and that will supply all sorts of information. And of course, the embassy can do the same thing. So all that information is available. If translation is required, which we've had to do from time to time, of course, the embassy will arrange to put anybody who's interested in making an investment into contact with a translation service. So this is actually less and less a problem. The real thing is this, when I want to underline exactly what Yassine said and what the ambassador said, this has huge opportunities. There is actually a deputy minister, for example, who is in charge of technology. He's a successful man himself. So what I'm trying to say is that that information is available. Any additional information, we will be very happy to follow up. I had a meeting yesterday with senior people at the Department of International Trade just about these subjects, and I'm seeing the minister at the Foreign Office about this tomorrow. We are really committed to making this relationship something important and useful, and has to provide the advantages to British investors in the country.
Well, that's terrific, and in many ways the timing couldn't be better, given that we're going to be a bit freed up to make exactly that sort of approach in advance. I wonder if I could ask Lady Olga, are branches of UK universities encouraged, in your very long and encouraging experience yourself of your relationship with Algeria? I'm being asked, what are the procedures? Are there any successful examples of British universities establishing or establishing relationships, if not as entities themselves?
Well, there are indeed. In fact, the Gordon University in Scotland have good relationships with Algerian higher education. But we do have the British Studies Institute, who have now developed an enormous network of relationships with British universities to be able to try and do distance learning, distance courses. And I think this is definitely a very important line of communication. I do agree with Lord Risby. The language barrier is really no longer there. The younger generation are making an enormous effort to learn English. There's a lot of material which is actually instantly at a click of Google can be translated into English. So don't allow the language to be a barrier. I think if there is one challenge, it's really trying to find more precisely identifying Algerian companies who are ready for a serious partnership. And I think this is where ONDI will probably develop more work in that direction. This has been slightly kind of put your hand into a brand jar, trying to find the appropriate companies. There are plenty around, run by very talented people, but trying to access them and identify them is still a bit of a challenge, but we will get there. But more and more younger generation Algerians are coming forward as a group or as individuals saying this is what we can do. So we are trying to do some matchmaking, but I think we've got to do a lot more in identifying companies in Algeria who are really ready for these partnerships, and they are there, but we've got to get that bridge working even better. And that's why we've got an office in Algiers, we have research facilities in Algiers, so there's a lot we can do to help individual companies, and that's why I feel so positive about next year.
Terrific, thank you very much for that. Mr. Fielder, I have a question here which asks, what are the steps UK investors need to take to bid for public tenders, and how does that tender process work? And what are the key sectors that offer most potential for UK firms as investors? And given that you're in the banking business, I think maybe that is a question that you may be able to help us with.
Yeah, so on the sectors that are most interesting, I think there's really a wide range. Covers really pretty much everything. We have, fast FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. Pharmaceutical is an industry where we've got some good British participation. I think Mr. Yassine mentioned earlier, now really is the time for the companies that are thinking of manufacturing and serving the local community, potentially even then exporting. It's no longer really the time for importing and resale. So although that's still available, there are the 49-51 restrictions. But across HSBC, the industries we see, it's a really wide range. The car industry is ready for more local production. Retail is open. The airlines are already here. And of course the hydrocarbons. But I think we see a real range of our customers across the whole gambit of the industry. Agriculture tends to be a little bit more, in my experience, government to sort of government. But that is also will be ripe for opening in terms of the expertise that could be leveraged from British companies. In terms of the first part of your question, the actual bid and tendering process, we're a little bit less involved with that. We'd be more involved with the companies setting up and having their operating accounts, their cash management, the foreign exchange that may need to come in or go out. And of course, our core product is the trade, mainly at the moment on the import side. But as companies start to export, HSBC's core products are, is global trade. So I think there may be better sources to answer that first part of how to apply for those tenders, and I guess they're in the tenders themselves. But we've got a team of business, my business team who are very much on the ground to help people come in, set up accounts. We have something called HSBC Net, which is a digital platform to allow them to see all of their accounts and all of that operating with electronic payments. You know, and what I would say is, if you are setting up, one of the things you need to do when you set up, and we've said this before, but for anyone new to this, is that there's an initial SWIFT confirmation that you need to keep under lock and key with that initial capital that comes in, to allow you to then repay dividends in the future. That's one sort of key document. But well, you know, we'd be happy to help anyone who's looking for more details. But I think, in summary, all the industries are there, ready for development.
I think that does help us with some of the questions we're getting about due diligence and financial soundness of any potential partners, and that's a very helpful answer you've given to a question I didn't actually put, but which nonetheless has been raised. I think I've seen Lord Risby indicated that you wanted to say something.
I do, thank you, Liz. I just wanted to support something that Olga mentioned, the development agency, which is known as ANDI. The last time we did a seminar, the individual who unfortunately is not represented today was speaking in English, and you know, this was an astonishing moment. She said, "You can have my telephone number, you ring me anytime, and if there's any blockage, any impediment to something that you want to do, or any explanation, I will personally handle it." I'm not sure that those who head up development agencies in many countries have made an offer like that. It's very impressive.
Very impressive indeed. Can I return to Mr. Bahara for a moment? Can you outline any success stories of British firms trading and doing business in Algeria? I mean, what I'm really being asked is there something inspirational that can be said, look, these guys did it, you can do it too?
Yeah, of course. No, I'm not going to talk about British Petroleum and the entire hydrocarbon.
I think this is here on a more modest level, perhaps.
Because I'm not going to talk about a prestigious bank like HSBC. I'm not going to talk about GlaxoSmithKline. I'm not going to talk about any of these because they are multinationals. But nevertheless, a very small group of people, and you know, with the support obviously of Lady Olga, because nothing happens now without Lady Olga, and obviously has taken the challenge of most probably the most difficult, the most regulated, the most complicated process to put in place, which is to install a foreign school in Algeria. If you should ask me what is the most challenging thing that you could possibly do in the country, I will tell you to install a private foreign school in the country. And as Lady Olga and Lord Risby mentioned, the school is open, yes? And so if you can install a British school in Algeria with all the complexity related to education, yes, then everything is possible.
That's a terrific answer, and it was the question I was going to, the last question I was going to put to His Excellency, the Ambassador, is exactly on that point about the potential for UK-Algerian collaboration in education, Your Excellency, such as language teaching, technical education training, and schools. Is there anything you'd like to add? That's a very important, I think, link for countries to have with each other is obviously the educational link, not only at schools, but at university level too.
Thank you. I think it's very important to see that Algeria is an open country. Algeria is the country of civilization. Algeria is a melting pot of civilization that are thousands and thousands of years old. You have to visit Algeria to see how the Roman empires, how the Byzantine empires, how the Ottomans, how the last one with the French, the Arabs 14 centuries ago. Algerians are very open, and English speaking is not definitely a problem in Algeria. We have just opened a British school, but does not mean the British culture is in Algeria since 2 months ago when you opened the school. The British have been present in Algeria, at least officially, for 450 years. And the Algerians and all Algerians now speak English. They don't speak like they are from Cambridge or Oxford, but they speak English that you can learn, that you can have a discussion, that you can make business with. And on the legislative side, we just signed a memorandum on cooperation in education, higher education. Right now, we have hundreds of Algerians who are doing PhDs in English. And I'd like to make some more comments on the question that you raised with my colleagues that are being present. I think the worst thing that, not the worst, but something that is not advisable is try to learn Algeria or about Algeria from other sources. The British, if I know something about British history, is that the British are the people who traveled most in most places in the world for a very, very long time. So if the British have been present in thousands and thousands of kilometers from the UK, Algiers is only 2 hours flight from London. So they have the knowledge. They don't need to go to some countries or some so-called think tanks to learn about Algeria. I think in London, I met a lot of people who have an excellent knowledge, and you don't have to go too far. You have Lord Risby, you have Lady Olga, and you have also in Algiers, you have also some organizations that speak in English, and they know Algeria really well. And I don't know if I respond to the question with respect to the English language and the culture.
Very well.
Because Algeria, at this time, we are really embarked on a very, very profound changes. One of the changes and one of the diversification, we want to diversify not only our economy, but we want to diversify all the languages that we speak in Algeria. By the English language, you can't imagine how many ministers in the Algerian government who emphasized of the learning of English. I mean, English as university taught language, which is already done, but on a larger and larger scale. And also on the openness of Algeria to diversify also its economic partners. And I think the UK, as has just been mentioned by Buhara, our relations, economic relations, started in 1964, 2 years after independence. And you talk about success stories. Yes, there are a lot of success stories, and Lord Risby maybe have the correct number, but as far as I know, you have around 130 British companies operating or operate in Algeria, and they are all very satisfied, not 100%. I don't even think that a company or a businessman can be satisfied 100%. But I think if you take on the aggregate, the positive and the negatives, I think the positive largely outweighs the negatives.
Indeed.
Thanks.
I'm just going to ask my Secretary General if he would like to make a few closing remarks. And then I think on that note, we will end this webinar, which I think has gone tremendously well. Thank you very much. But over to you, Banda.
Well, thank you very, very much. I would like to thank all of you and all the speakers today. There's extremely an excitement going on today between all the discussions and the information that we received. I was expecting, a certain level of information about Algeria, and I got way more than I expected. And I think all the audience had the same feeling. Algeria is a great country. I mean, the location of Algeria in Africa, North Africa, by itself is a tremendous treasure. Nevertheless, the people of Algeria, the education, the history, the diversity of opportunities over there. I just wanted to add one more thing. ABCC, the Arab British Chamber of Commerce, opens doors to any inquiries from any British companies or Algerian companies or entrepreneur, vice versa. We could be the link to open doors over there. We could eliminate any obstacles in behalf of the embassy and in behalf of the all the other organizations. So do please come and visit us. Our colleagues and staff are ready and available 24/7. And as Lord Risby said, my phone number is available 24/7 to be reached, and I do mean it. So please give us a call.
Well, thank you both very much for that. If I may say, I just loved Algeria when I went there on a couple of occasions when I was a minister, and subsequently. It's a terrific country, full of life and energy. And I must say, some of the most welcoming and friendly people that I have ever dealt with. And Your Excellency, we are delighted that you are now with us here in London. I hope you enjoy your period of office with us. And to the rest of the panel, thank you very much for the great answers that you've given to the questions that I put to you, and for your opening remarks as well. I think people will have got a much better feel of what potential is for the sort of relationship that we would love to build with Algeria in the future. So thank you all very much indeed for your participation, and I hope those who have been listening into this webinar have also found it as useful and as interesting as I have. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.